Perfect. Hey, Runaset, man, again, brother, I appreciate you, man. During this time, bro, so much has been going on, going down, man. And Sonya Massey, seeing that shooting, seeing that video that so many people saw, of course, it was disgusting, it was saddening, but seeing how active you've been on social media about this issue, how did you feel, man, when you first saw everything, when it first happened?
Well, one of the first things that I thought about when I saw the video, I thought about the concepts of our spirituality and
Mm-hmm.
how close ties, us as Black folks that we have to religion. So when she, said the words that she was invoking some type of spiritualness from her because there was something that she felt in the room, felt in the air, and I think, because of our people, we're so closely, connected with religion and all of the things, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of those different aspects. And I feel like when she said what she said, I felt like there was a spiritual connection in the room
Mm,
that she had. Right now, obviously, what the outcome was horrendous,
yeah.
outrageous, and just utterly, we just, we can, we always saying we're seeing it far too often. And I think that in some of our analyzing of these situations like this one, even when we look at Sandra Bland and we look at all of the other incidences that happen, in particularly when we're talking about Black women, I feel like just like back in the day, the Black Panther Party had the Panther Patrol, and they would have people within their communities that would patrol, make sure women were not being abused, make sure women
Right.
were not being taken advantage of. I think we need to usher that back into our communities where we have different avenues for women and men, and then also as children as well, because we know a lot of our children are facing a lot of adversities in our
Yeah.
community where they're being taken advantage of. And if they had, let's say, a specific number within the community that people know it's an organization or it's a group of, Black men that are willing to protect and police their communities because of what they're seeing that's going on. I feel like
Mm,
we need to focus more on the answers. I understand we can focus on the analyzation of what happened, why it was bad, and all of those things. But we need to really start understanding that the solution is going to be the key because, you know, putting a video out like that is no different than when we looked at pictures of our ancestors being lynched from trees,
right.
and then even when we think of the concepts of what Hitler did and
Mm,
in Germany and all the propaganda that was used to perpetuate all of the stuff that we were seeing, as we can see now, especially with social media in this generation, videos like that get shared and passed around. Even when we look at the Ahmaud Arbery situation,
yeah.
prior to the world knowing about the Ahmaud Arbery situation, that video was being passed around within the community and people were seeing it, and things of that nature. So we just have to get to the point to where now we have to create that conglomerate of people that we can use to protect our communities that we can call. So if Massey felt like there was an intruder in her home, now, instead of calling the police, she can call some brothers in the community that can
Right.
come assess the situation. And then if
Right.
need be, it needs to be where somebody has to call the police, let the brothers call the police. Because as we know, women already are vulnerable
Yeah.
in society when it comes to what white supremacy is willing to do to them. And then when we have to understand that, protecting the Black woman, from a standpoint of policing our communities is the key, the
Mm,
main key to what we need to start doing to eliminate situations like this from even occurring. And we need to start within our own communities. Even when we look at what police were for back in the day, like police had to live in the communities that they police.
yes.
So,
Yep.
so it made them care a little bit more. And then
Yep.
when they started getting people from the outside, from an hour away, to come in and police the community that they don't really care about, that's when you really even more seen an influx of people just, police abusing their power. So what we need to do is that, just like they say, be the change that you wish to see. If we wish to see a change within our community from the police treating black men, black women, black children in a horrendous way, then we have to start acting as the solutions in that, instead of just talking about what the issues are. Because I think we pretty much all know what the issues are within our
Facts.
community. You know,
Facts.
we have plethoras of scholars that have gone through, hundreds of years of research throughout all different eras and different generations, and have pointed out and shown all the problems. We need to come to become solutionaires. We need
Yes,
to be
sir.
more solutionary with all of the incidences that we're seeing and that we're facing, even as regards to politics. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden before, and then
Yeah.
Donald Trump, and all of this stuff. If we continuously say that, the lesser of two evils, this party ain't doing nothing, that party ain't doing nothing, and then they say, but you just got to pick the lesser of two evils.
Yep.
I feel like we need to bring back what the Black Panther Party was doing, because the Black Panther Party, in particular, outside of what the media tried to portray with the image of guns, and then, all of them trying to loop them into being like, terrorists and threats to
Yep.
society, what the FBI wanted to label them. Huey and Bobby were two brothers that were into law, that were trying to get their people together as it relates to understand knowing law and being able to do that. And then when the police and white supremacist force saw what they were doing, that's when they had to start picking up guns to protect themselves, not to
That's
go
right.
inflict harm or just cause some conflict within their community. The purpose of what they were doing was trying to uplift their community through education. And as we know, when we get educated, we become a threat. They didn't even need to pick up the gun at first. The book was the gun. That why they even stopped us from reading on the plantation. Because the second we even had the capability of learning those things, we grasped it and soaked it up like a sponge. And
Right.
then, as you can see, we're the foundation of the
Mm.
world, of
Yes.
America, of every place, everything that we do. If it wasn't for Black people's creations throughout generations, majority of the stuff that we see, we might not even be able to be on a podcast on a computer
Yep.
utilizing a microphone in a
Come on.
building, because all of those components that it takes for us to just do what we need to do, for you to do your podcast,
Mm.
came through a Black mind, and a
Mm.
Black mind, a Black man, a Black woman, and i.e. working together in
Right.
particular, because it was
Right.
never just one or the other. As it relates
Facts.
to the man and woman, it was the Black
Mm.
man and woman coming together and
Come on.
understanding what needs to be done in order to make things flow right. It's like a movie. When a movie
Mm-hmm.
is successful and it's good, everybody played their role right. Nobody tried to
That's right.
overstep the next character or anything like that. So that's how we have to look in our society. When everybody plays their role and everybody can kind of put their ego aside, because I think that's
Mm.
what happens a lot of the time. Our ego get in our way, and then it
That's
makes us
right.
want to be, Mr. Everything, and then get caught up in the spotlight and just what white supremacy wants us to do, because then that further stirs up more conflict within our people.
Mm.
But back to what I was saying, as it relates to just looking at the political realm, like I was saying, the Black Panther parties laid out the foundation. They got that from the Deacons of Defense, and then the Black
Yes.
Panther Party laid out that foundation to create, and we're working towards creating a political party for Black people. The donkey, the
Mm.
elephant, that's Republican Democrat. But then they brought up the Panther. The Panther is known
Mm.
for being diplomatic by nature, deadly when provoked. As long as
Right.
you leave a panther alone and don't bother it, it's not going to bother you. Just like, for the most part, that's how we operate.
Come
Don't
on.
bother us, we won't bother you. It's even like that's how the mafia even thinks. Like, if you
Mm.
don't mess with the mafia just don't come out looking for you or trying to do anything. You have to actually do something to provoke them. And then even with, the animal kingdom with the panther, you have to do something to provoke. Like an alligator is lurking in the water, like those police on the side of the highways, the highway patrol, just lurking for some prey. But when we look at the panther, and us as a people understood that the representation of the panther was, even when you look at the panther's breath and it being sweet and it lures in, we are the people that allure everybody else to see what we're doing, because we're always the group of people that's coming up with the next thing, the next wave. Everything that we look, even if it's negative, people still look to us and figure out, what they're going to do from that realm, but they even still try to emulate the negative stuff that Black people do. So inadvertently, Black people become trendsetters in everything, even if it's something that's negative. And we just, even when we look at drug dealing and criminality, all the notorious gangsters, yeah, there are a couple white, but even when we just look at, even when they're talking about some of the gangsters, and they're talking about how did they do their operation? How did they, stay under the radar? They're always looking at it from the perspective that Black people are intellectual. Like, even if they're out here selling drugs, how are they doing it to that capacity? How are they able to, manage all of those things? Even when we look at some of the brothers that are in jail, those are some of the most genius people that we have in our society.
Yes.
Mathematical geniuses. We have people that are in jail right now that could be bankers on Wall Street.
That's right.
That could be outdoing some of the white folks right now. So it just boils down to the fact that we have everything that we need. We've had the layout from our ancestors that have laid, and even some of the Black Panthers, like Bobby Seale, he's still alive. I think a lot of these scholars lose interest in what they might have started because they don't see the young people trying to pick up the baton. But a lot of these older generation, the older generation, a lot of the scholars that came before us from the 60s and 70s, they're waiting for the younger people. But then a lot of times when we're being pushed the images of the Sexy Red and the Megan Thee Stallion and all of that, and even though they represented Democrats, you got the Republicans bringing out these drill rappers. Yep. So both sides are trying to pander to Black people with Black people of a certain demographic, rap music. So it's just very interesting when we look at both sides, and then we just look at how everything is going. And if we understand that we don't like either side and we don't want to vote for either, and they tell us, well, if you don't vote, you're still voting for somebody, we should then create our own Black political party, just like the Black Panthers were doing. And I say the Black Panthers, instead of just trying to say, come up with something brand new, because they laid out the blueprint. We have to not take in vain what our ancestors laid out. They purposely laid out that plan, and through the infiltration shows how even more powerful it can be if we pick up the baton, because there was strategic reasons why they did that for the Black Panther Party. When we look at the free breakfast programs in schools all across the country, people just think, oh, that's just because, they want you to have free breakfast. No, that was started by the Black Panthers, and then that became a nationwide thing that everybody started doing. So the power that they have, the power that they had back then, and then the power that they have now, because there are still people with the Black Panther spirit doing the ancestors' work right now, different places all across this country. Some of the younger people, some of the older generation are still doing what they're doing, working with the younger people. So it's still going on, and it's still very prevalent. I feel like because of media, and they push in front of us that there's only this Democrat or Republican, and then, okay, we see people like Cornel West, and we see some of the other people that might, but they're still not understanding of what we need. Not an independent party. We need to be up in those ranks just as much as you see these Democrats and Republicans. And we need to do it in a way that's going to be beneficial to our people. Like I was saying, when people say be the change that you wish to see, we have to be that change that we wish to see. And we have to not limit ourselves just because they're telling us we have to pick one or the other, because before the Democrats, it was the Dixiecrats. Yes. So, and before Black people were Democrats, they were Republicans. Yes. So how quick things change because certain things happen. Fannie Lou Hamer is the reason why that was the turning point in this Republican Democrat, where Black people were once Republican and then changed to Democrat. It's just a lot of different things that happened throughout our history that, make a change. The pandemic happened, and there are certain things right now that were not prevalent in 2019. People were not working from home in 2019. Yes. If there was a snow day, there was you staying home. now it's you can still do work on your computer. So all it
Yeah.
does is take an event to make something change. And then if you do that, like we've done it for so people, with the pandemic, the first 2 years, that was all people were doing. And now we're in 2024, and almost all the jobs across the board, people have at least a couple days where they're staying in their home and being able to work from home. So all it takes is one event, major event at that, but one event to happen for real change to occur. And I feel like we've gotten to so many points of revolution as it relates to just us as Black people in America. And then now it's just going to get to the point we're going to get it to be revolutionized, and not just it's going to be revolutionized, it's going to stay that way. Just like we see a lot of the things that were implemented in the pandemic, like working remotely from home or school, things like that. There are certain things that Black people, the power that we wield, and when they say that we're 15 to 20% of the world, and then in that same regard, they're saying we need the Black vote. If only 15 to
Yeah.
20% of us is needed to make a massive shift
Come
in
on.
how people vote, what candidate gets in, then we need to take a step back and say, if we got that type of power as only 20%, then what else can we really do with that with the
That's
power that
right.
we wield? Not only just that, but in addition to the political realm. Because if we are only 20%, then we should be able to be like, well, we want this, we want that. If they need our vote that much that they got to bring out all Megan Thee Stallion, Quavo, they got to pander to us with
Yep.
all these different things. Because if you didn't need, if all you needed was the Asian vote, the
Mm.
Hispanic vote, the white vote, if all you needed was that demographic, then wouldn't you be good? It doesn't 80%, shouldn't 80% rule out 20%? Numbers wise, 80
That's
is
right.
much substantially higher than 20. So if 80% of the world can't shift an election, but 20% can, and that 20% is Black people in particular, then we got more power to be able to wield than just, them just overlooking the fact that they have not, even if they don't want to call it reparations, even if you want to call it a repairman for Black America, where is that? Where's the anti-hate crime bill? If
That's
Black,
right.
they value our vote so much, but they don't value our life at all. If we're not alive, how can we vote? So if you
Mm.
don't want to keep us alive by protecting us with an anti-hate crime bill, then what's the point of pandering to our vote if we're not here to vote because you're not protecting us?
Man. Hey, Rue. Hey, you talking good, brother. And man, the Black Panther Party, that's actually perfect because I was about to bleed into my very next question. When it comes to Black populations in certain major U.S. cities, we always think about cities like LA, Atlanta, Chicago, New York, but one of the most overlooked is Seattle, where you're at currently, right? Elmer Dixon, what type of impact did he have and also the Black Panthers in Seattle during his time?
Well, they definitely had a large impact. I've had the great honor to be around Elmer Dixon a couple
Hmm.
times. I'm in connection. Actually, some folks that I'm in connection with. They're between Seattle and Oakland. They're working on a
Nice.
documentary on the Seattle Black Panther chapter
That's dope.
and the history of that. Because I think, like you're saying, when people think of the Black Panthers, they think of predominantly Black cities. But when you think
Yep.
of Seattle, you think of a lot of white folks, things of
Yep.
that nature. But they were very prevalent here. Like they were very much in like everything that I'm saying about the Panther Patrol was stuff that Elmer Dixon broke down to me, things that
Huh.
they did, things that the other Black Panthers did. He even gave
Hmm.
an example. There's a restaurant that we met up at called Southern Kitchen in Tacoma, and the guy who owns it, his sister was actually being treated wrong by her boyfriend at the time. So they went and linked up with Elmer and his brother, because it was Elmer and Aaron Dixon that created the two brothers. They went to them and they told them the situation. They went, checked the brother, and that's what needed to be done for that situation to get resolved. You offer a person, you give a person an offer that they can't refuse, like Godfather. So if you're out here doing harm to our women, harm to our children, harm to another Black man in any way, shape, or form, we're gonna come check you about it. We get they had a certain level of certain level of ways that they went about doing what they did, that the community would feel protected, that they could go to them and ask them to do certain things and they'd
Right.
be able to get it done as it relates to protecting the community from a standpoint. And these were young brothers. These were 17, 18-year-olds. I'm not talking about 30, 35. I'm talking about like people still in high school
Wow.
because what they're seeing in their communities and the economic deprivation and even some of the incidences that still occur here in Seattle, there still is a need and all across the world. But here in Seattle, when you looked at the perspective of this being a predominantly white city, and then you have the Black Panthers, because you had the chapter here, and actually the Seattle chapter was the second chapter outside of California. They
Wow.
actually, Elmer and Aaron actually went to Bobby Hutton. Bobby Hutton, who was killed by
No.
the so Bobby Hutton was 17. He was killed by the police. He was a Black Panther. He was one of the original 5 members of the
Mm-hmm.
Black Party. He was killed, shot, basically execution style by the Oakland police for no reason at
Wow.
all. So Elmer and Aaron, when they saw that, they felt so like knowing that Bobby Hutton was 17 years old as well, going to his funeral, seeing all of these people, even seeing a person like Marlon Brando, the Godfather. Because
Mm-hmm.
look at Marlon Brando, people just see the Godfather. But even a person like Marlon Brando, who was a white man, who was going and playing and became, a world-renowned actor for playing in The Godfather, he spent his acting days acting as The Godfather. But when it comes down to being in real stuff, he was with Bobby Seale. He was with the real revolutionaries. And that's what makes me wonder, where are these people today? And that's why
Yes.
all this coalition, Black, Brown, Black, Asian, all of these
Mm,
coalitions are really non-existent nowadays, and it's just a bunch of talk because where are these individuals? They just had a show on Huey Newton, The Big Cigar, where it was about Huey Newton teaming up with
yep.
a Jewish director
Yep.
who escaped to Cuba. Where are these people? Because obviously these people, because I was told by Elmer and Aaron that that story is true.
Wow.
So it's not
Wow.
made up. It's not like anything that was just a facade based
Wow.
around Hollywood. So if we had individuals who were from the all of these different religious backgrounds, if you had Jewish people, white people, Asian people, Hispanic people, if you had all of these people back in the day working together and they were actually in the movements. But when we look at it nowadays, those same groups that were working with the Panthers are being used as the buffer class
Hmm.
to disrespect the legacy of Black Americans here in this country because they understood when they did work together, they almost had a revolution on their hands. You know what I mean? So they
Wow.
said, how can we disrupt that? Divide and conquer. And that's what they've always done. White supremacy, number one, two, has been divide and conquer. Divide Black people, then divide the subsets of, colored people, and then put them all in the same community, the ghetto, the projects, why it was called the projects, because it was a project to see
Project.
how many Black people, and then
That's
we're
right.
gonna throw in the Asians and we're gonna throw in the Hispanics, and we're all
That's
just gonna
right.
like New York is a prime example of the experiment that they did with Black people, and then putting all these other subgroups inside of that same demographic spread throughout 5 different boroughs,
Mm,
so New York is just a prime example of the melting pot that they try to create. And even when they're bringing all these immigrants that they're doing now, they're trying to throw off the history of what
mm,
Black Americans did in this country. They're trying to throw off the history of people like the Black Panthers, trying to throw off the history of people like Malcolm X and MLK and all of these world-renowned people that we still know to this day, because there ain't
right.
no real white folks that we know. There ain't no white folks in history that are world renowned. The only white folks we know are people like Napoleon, and all the other white people that have
Yep.
done harm to this
Mm,
country. Never done anything worth its substance. Maybe like a John Brown, maybe,
yep.
and some of the other people that I might have been working with the abolitionists. And even something I learned, even out in Atlanta, Spelman College.
Yep.
It's named after. She looks like she's white, but she definitely looked like she could be a passing black woman
Hmm.
who was connected with Harriet Tubman's abolitionist movement
Yep.
and married the elder Rockefeller.
Rockefeller.
And
Yep.
Spelman and Rockefeller created the man who created the Rockefeller drug laws. So it's just interesting how Rockefeller created the drug laws, but his mother was an abolitionist with
Hmm.
Harriet Tubman.
Come on.
And then they name it a HBCU after a woman who maybe she might have been trying to do what was right, but then how you birth a son that created a whole set of laws that still have black people locked up to this day in conjunction with those two people in the office representing the Democrat Biden, because he's still there, and Kamala,
Yes.
because she,
Hmm.
I don't know if she's gonna be the nominee, but she's what they're looking at now.
Yep.
But there's all of these things connect with politics, and it
That's
connect
right.
the black person's everyday life as it relates to like the power that we wield. We should be getting much more than what is out here for us, in the sense that if we that 20%, and if we as powerful to shift a whole entire election, and we can shift this whole entire nation
Hmm.
into
Come
into
on, Agro.
into anything. Obviously, positivity, because that's what we about. We've
Right.
always been about positivity. We're not
Right.
perfect, but as
Right.
black people before the white man infiltrated us, yeah, we had our issues, we had things, but it wasn't from the westernized way of thinking. It wasn't from a person coming out of the ice age. It wasn't there was just different conflicts and different beefs that black people had before we were infiltrated, by white man, white woman, and then globally white supremacy. So we're always going to be working on being better and striving better, you know, than we were the day prior. But it's just this Western way of thinking. It just has us thinking backwards. It has us looking at politics backwards, because the Black Panthers understood that we needed politics. There was a need
Yep.
for politics and a structure for a government, but it just wasn't what the Democrats and the Republicans were giving us. So they said to themselves, we're going to create a plan, and we're going to create a party that's going to be part of that plan. That 10-point program that they created, that
Mhm.
was sort of like a constitution in a
Yep.
sense. It was a declaration. Yes, it was a lot of be the what we want because of what we're facing, but that was because of the times. And adapting all of those concepts, that's why they did what they did, in hopes that in maybe a
Mm.
2024 we would have all of those things that they were declaring. And because we don't have those things necessarily, but we do have the resources, we just need enough people to allocate those resources in order for us to do what needs to be done. That's the only problem that we see in our society. There are a lot of black people, celebrities, even just regular folks that have money, have access to resources, and we just need to come together and stop fighting amongst each other, because the divide and conquer is really, because if we work together, and then we can be our own individualistic. But we cannot be only individualistic when we're not together as a people. Once we get ourselves together as a people, and we're not having to consistently fight white supremacy on an everyday basis, then we can then talk about what we want to do for ourselves individually. But because we have all of these people with all of these substantial amounts of money and resources, they're just only necessarily thinking about individualistically themselves and maybe just their families. But what about everybody else? Because as we know, and even when Kamala Harris said it, and she slipped up, but she really was telling the truth when she said she wasn't going to do nothing for black people.
Yep.
She basically before that said, if black people get right, I'm paraphrasing, if black people
Hmm.
get right, then the world gets right.
Hmm.
So then in that response, she says, so am I going to give nothing to black people solely for black people? No. So basically, you're saying to sacrifice the world getting better, you're going to
Mm.
make sure black people don't get nothing. Because if
That's
black
right.
people get something, then we will go out and fix the world. If
Hmm.
black people were to get reparations tomorrow, yeah, there might be some people that do whatever they want to do with their money. That's their right.
Yep.
If somebody wins
Yep.
the lottery, you don't have a right to tell them what
That's
they have to
facts.
do. When somebody inherits money from their family, you don't have a right to tell them you can only do this or only do that. But oh, if you give reparations, you can't go out and buy X, Y, and Z. You know, like if somebody chooses to do that, that's their own choice. It
Mm.
ain't got nothing to do. But if black people get reparations, all we'll get our once we then get ourselves right, link up back with Africa, and we can do certain things from a global, a scale. The white folks, Asian folks,
Mm.
Hispanic folks, all the different demographics will then they'll get right. It just doesn't make sense that you have all these white homeless people, all these white drug addicts, all of that, but the white people are the ones with the money. If
Mm.
we were in a position of power and had all the money, had all the businesses, there's no way that we would have all that money and all that resources and pass by and see black people on the streets. We'd help them out. And then once we got them right, we would then not want to see the white man on the side of the street or the Asian man or the Hispanic man on it. So when you give black people reparations, and they know that, because if they could give us reparations and know we go out and buy Jordans and buy liquor and they get all that money back and they can get the money back and then
They
say we
would.
get
Yep.
compensation, they would
Yes.
do that.
Yes.
They would have did that when the first person brought up
Come on.
reparations, said,
Yes.
but they fear a revolution like the
Mm.
Black Panthers. They fear that if we get ourselves together monetarily wise and
That's
start
right.
owning land and start doing these
Yes.
different, and then everybody else gets right. And they don't want a perfect world because a perfect world means that there are a lot of people without a job. No more need for
Mm.
police, no more need for ambulance, no more need for doctors, no more need for the pharmaceutical companies. And those are all the major 500 Fortune companies, multi-billion, trillion-dollar companies. So if there's no need for that, then you wiped out a whole population of white jobs. Like when people talk about
Mm.
black jobs,
Black
you
jobs.
wiped
Yep.
out about all black, all of those
Come
pharmaceutical and
on.
all of those diabolical companies, Johnson and Johnson, and all of the people that was pushing the Pfizer, all of those people, those is white jobs. When people talk
Mm.
about what it is, those is white jobs. And if those white jobs are non-existent anymore, then really white people will then become a step below than where they're at right now. They only keep control, and especially when they're controlling sickness, when they're controlling birth rates, when they're controlling population, that's where their power lies, even above the
Mm.
money. So
Yep.
they're able to control, like with COVID. We know, okay, there might have been a sickness going throughout the air, but that doesn't stop it from them throwing it out there and being like, how we going to keep things control
Yep.
populated? Or how can we experiment? How much of the world can we do to follow along with something if we tell them they're going to do it? And then how many more people will do it if we tell them that we're going to take their job from them?
Mm.
So all of the, they're doing real life trial and error, you know, and it's just interesting how nobody's even talking about the pandemic,
At
and
all.
then that's not even a topic with the Democrats and
I
Republicans.
was just thinking about that too, bro. It's insane. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Not even
Man.
with these vaccine companies, Pfizer don't have to answer, Johnson and Johnson don't have to answer for none of this. Like people are still, dying. And yes, they might be able to chalk it up to saying it was this, that, or the third, but come on, we know what it is. You
Bro,
know, even with
it's
Bronny
bad.
James, that situation he had, the Damar
With the
Hamlin,
heart attack. Yeah,
yeah,
Damar Hamlin. Yes.
all
Dropping
of
out.
these, yeah, and all of these players just ran like randomly 26-year-olds, 33-year-old. It's like
Mm.
under four. If you're under 40 and just dying, and especially they're talking about these people were sports players. These people were people who actively kept their body in shape, but they're the ones that are going to be susceptible to something at such a young age.
Mm.
We might have to look at some of the things like, did they get the vaccine? Did they get multiple shots after?
Mm.
Because maybe people that got the shot once, maybe that wasn't none, the booster, maybe none. But there are people that went out and got like 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yes.
that really went overboard, even beyond if you just did it the first time or whatever the case may be. So these effects people aren't seeing, and they're not going to see the effects of it. And it's even happening at even a fast rapid pace for some people that people can just easily try to chalk it up to being something when it's like, but it goes back to the control that they have amongst us as a people and why they will never want to act, just voluntarily give up their power. Look at all these people in all of these high positions. They don't want to voluntarily give up their position. Either they
Nope.
got to get kicked out or they
Yep.
pass away or something like
Yes.
that, but they ain't trying to give up their power.
Hmm.
So it just goes back and it makes us as a people have to reflect on, you know, all of these things that we're seeing. What are the answers? We know the problems, but what are the solutions? What for every problem that you have, just like if you come to somebody with a whole bunch of problems, that's gonna go nowhere. But if you came to a person with some problems, but then said, yo, I got some solutions, I got some ways I could fix this, then you'll be able to work with somebody. You're bringing something, and you're not just complaining. Because I think a lot of sometimes what we see is that, and if we have so much time to complain, then can we have that same type of time and same energy into
Hmm.
actually doing
Finding the solution.
whatever we're complaining about, what's the solution? And then we can complain about it. Let's take that same energy and find a solution to it, and then we won't have to complain about it anymore. Because I know I don't like complaining. You probably don't like complaining.
Nah.
Average
Yeah, I feel
person
you.
don't like complaining.
Mm.
We've just been so we've been so used to complaining in a
Right.
sense because of what they throw at us. And then it gets so ridiculous that sometimes, but then we have to then say to ourselves, what are we going to do? And we got to start acting in the change that we wish to see. And it all starts somewhere. People might think, oh, trying to create a black political party, how is that going to work?
Mm.
But everything starts somewhere. It just takes a business, anything
Mm.
in this world that we want to be successful. Everything, Apple, look at Apple. Apple started small. Yeah, it's white.
Yes.
You have white money backing it. But
Yeah.
it's just one example of the fact that something can come from nothing, and then it's just Madam C.J. Walker going
Come on.
door to door in the early
Yes.
1900s. You know, now look at how we profess her name and what we talk about and all those different things. So people might have thought Madam C.J. Walker going door to door, who is she? Da da da. But then what, 100 some odd years later, she is the image
Yes,
of
sir.
the ushering in of like black hair care and things of that and what we see now. So
Mm.
all it takes is somebody to do something, and then it will skyrocket once other people start seeing the importance behind it.
That's
Because
right.
if everybody's complaining about politics, why can't all of those people complaining then say, oh, there's a idea concept for a new political party? I want to get with that. I want to back that. I want to put money behind that.
Mm.
Instead of us complaining, let's do something about it. And doing something about it means action, not just pontificating or, just giving certain wishful thinking. We have to put action behind it. And it all goes back to what our ancestors have laid out in their foundation. We haven't gotten this far just because everybody else is going to come in and take it. We got this far because the ancestors knew that we were going to rise up and be able to take back what is ours. And also not just here in America, but even like being in Egypt and seeing some of the things that they're trying to do with
Mm.
our history and convolute some of the concepts and stories. We gonna come and get back everything all across the board. And
Wow.
it starts with America. And I believe that we cannot do anything in Africa until we get America right. Because if America is the foundation for what everybody does in the rest of the world, you have to get it's like the base. You have to get
Yes.
the base of a building constructed and right. You can't build
Hmm.
from the top down. You got to
No.
build from the bottom up. So the
Yeah.
basis of the foundation of civilization and humanity, yes, it comes out of Africa in that regard, but the basis of how the world functions right
Yes.
now in 2024 is based off of what Black people in America do. It
Mm.
just is what it is. Break dancing in the Olympics. That
Yes.
they have they incorporated some Asian folks, but they have
Hmm.
a Haitian American representing
Wow.
that. So they definitely had to go. with a black person. And even though, they do this kind of inner fighting where they'll get, other demographics of
Yep.
our people and superimpose them as if they break dance in Haiti. No, they don't. So
Right.
sometimes they get it convoluted, but much respect that is due because we are one people at the end of the day. It's like a tree that has a multitude of branches. We
Hmm.
are all a branch from that same tree, and we have to understand that. And like I was saying, divide and conquer, they'll always use people to pit us. They can't use the white man against us, really. They can't use, but the one thing that they know that is a tool is to use people that look like us against
Mm.
us.
Right.
That's why they handpick who they allow to come over to America from certain countries, that are part of the diaspora. Because if you're
Yes.
trying to go over there and revolutionize with black folks, they ain't gonna let you
Mm.
come over here. But
Mm.
if you say, yeah, I'm willing to just work, 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 I don't even care about nobody, that they're gonna be like, all right, come on, my friend.
Mm.
So it's like we have to understand the games that they play, and we have to understand that we have to come at these certain situations and scenarios that we're seeing where we're being pitted against one another and don't feed into some of the rhetoric and some of the propaganda that they're pushing because this is part of their ultimate plan because they're on their way out. White supremacy is
Mm.
dead. White supremacy
Mm.
has been dead since 2020 when they needed uh, 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 to make illegal immigrants valid in New York for them to have the capability to vote. And that's why
Mm.
we see a lot of the inconsistencies with the
Yep.
election that we saw in 2020 because there was a lot of funny business going on.
Mm.
So and if we know that, we have to then understand that, we are the foundation, we're the basis, and our history is rooted here in America, it's rooted in Africa, it's rooted in a multitude of different places. If we really go back, for everybody's lineage, everybody has some
Yes.
lineage probably in multitude of different places. But
Yes.
when we look at where we're at right now and where we're most rooted in right now, it's America, and America becomes the focal point even look at the Olympics. The America is USA is top right now in all
Yes.
areas. Basketball, USA
Yep.
basketball, they've been blowing out every team. Like not,
Yes.
not even close.
Yeah.
The preliminary rounds, it was a little more close, but
Yeah.
these games, no competition.
Mm.
You know, and if LeBron, Steph Curry, and Durant are the representation of sports for Black people, and that's
Mm.
what everybody follows, imagine if three scholars were the example and the metric on how people view the USA.
Wow. Wow.
It would be
Hey, you cooking, man. Hey, Rue, you are cooking, brother. And man, you've been saying solutionary. We have to be solutionary based. And hearing that is like a breath of fresh air, brother, because from seeing all of these shootings, we can go all the way back to 2012. We can go before 2012. We can go all the way back to Emmett Till and back to the plantations, all of that stuff. This trauma has been constantly happening. And I think with even seeing Sonya Massey, that clip, I was kind of like just desensitized to it because we've seen it so much. Solution wise, how can we help mitigate these police shootings from constantly happening? And it's like a big one every few years. How do we try to stop doing these things in our own communities, nationwide, all of that as well? How can we help stop it?
Well, I would say the one thing in order to stop it, to be honest, we need to really dig deep in the level of education, our self-worth, and understanding who we are and understanding
Mm.
how to combat. And that's why I bring it back to the Black Panthers, because the Black Panthers laid out the foundation how to deal with police officers, how to deal with these white race soldiers. So I
Mm.
believe that it really starts in educating our people, having the youth look at, like the Power to the Panthers manual that me and my
Mm.
father created that even lays out the like Neely Fuller Jr. has 9 points where he talks about the area of people activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, gender, war, counter war, and we added a 10th one, which is health. So if we
Mm.
look at all of those different components, if a young child can utilize a manual like this, and if he finds or she finds themselves in a situation, they can then have a resource to be able to look at and ask themselves, how can I change the trajectory if I don't like what I'm seeing? You know, if you
Wow.
don't like what you're seeing, we got to change that trajectory. And the only way you change that trajectory is if you change the direction and the path that you're going on. And the only way you can do that is having something that can lead you on that path. If you don't have a person that can lead you, you might need something like a pamphlet, a manual. Everybody wants people to, read a Bible, read a Quran, and that's all great. But we also have to have manuals that go to as relates to the Black Code of Law of Life
Come on.
and things of
Yes.
that nature. So we can follow and abide by those laws and be on code with one another. I do believe that a lot of the situations that we face will be non-existent if we can really get on code with one another and even beyond just because it sounds good saying let's be on code, but what sounds even better is us actually doing it. Because
That's
a
right.
lot of people can talk about what they want and pontificate and create an illusion in their mind based off of, trying to visualize it, but just do it. Like
Mm.
Nike, they're
Yep.
slow, just do it. I mean,
Come on.
it might sound like remedial, but just do it. Just be that action, be that change. If you see this or you see that, if your community, needs some cleaning, some assistance, whatever it needs, just be that change. And I swear people will follow. The reason why we follow the basketball players and we follow even the street hustlers and all these people is because they have made certain things cool. If we made it cool to be educated, if we made it cool to, care about our communities and not just throw trash, not litter. You see an elderly person who needs some assistance, you help them maybe get on the bus, maybe help them with their groceries. If we have more of a functionality in our society, instead of a give and take, we have all the time in the world. The young brothers on the corner have all the time in the world to BS. Take some of that energy and help out some of the people in the community. And I believe that if we can all together get together and really help each other out, we will by default eliminate a lot of our stuff. And it's not even just us sitting up, like I say, complaining about it. We just do the little things, the simple things, it will eradicate, some of the things that we see on a consistent basis. And then when we see things like the Massey and we see all the other things happen, either we won't see them, or if we do see them, then boom, we on code.
Mm.
Right when it happens. Even if we can't 100% prevent a occurrence from happening, then maybe, having those brothers in the community, they'll go and check the police. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Many times police and like George Zimmerman's, they do what they do, and then there's no repercussion. They don't fear, oh, I'm gonna walk in the supermarket and somebody gonna run down on me because I did such and such. So it's like they have to understand that, having brothers in the community that say, we gonna pull up and we gonna hop out if y'all want to disrespect our Black women, our Black men, our Black children. And then trust me, if they could fear that, they'd even stop doing some of the things that they're doing. If they knew that they
Exactly.
would have to meet a brother with some dreads and a beard face to face, seven
Mm.
feet, that white man gonna think twice. But
Yes.
he just assumes that, all we care about is sports and
Yep.
entertainment and Megan Thee Stallion. That's why it's not good to have these Megan Thee Stallion and Quavo, because those are distractions. Those are already
Mm.
distractions we have in our community. And how we
Come
gonna
on.
get right by being distracted? How we gonna get political and down to a point to where we gonna try to uplift ourselves if you're just throwing things that are already distractions for us? You
Mm.
know, so and
Yes.
then on top of that, even if you was going to have a Megan Thee Stallion, why is she out there twerking or in an imagery of that's what she about to do? Why is she not out there talking from a perspective? She got a health degree from
Mm.
college. Why isn't she
Right.
talking about health, about Black
Mm.
women's health? The mortality rate as it relates to Black women in hospitals. Why is she not
Mm.
talking about the health rate as it relates to, HIV and some of the things, and if you're in Atlanta and they're saying Atlanta is such and such, but then you
Yes.
have a answer, like I'm saying, if she can be an answer, her answer to society is not twerking and half rapping. You know what I mean? If you got a degree in health, what's going on with our people, and even if you just want to focus on one thing, the mortality rate with Black women as it relates to the children, sometimes they're dying, sometimes their children are dying, sometimes both are dying. And you have a health degree, but you'd rather shake your tail feather instead of actually be doing something that could benefit your people, because all the rappers that we've had, that has not done beneficial in comparison to if we had a Black woman who was in health administration, in a
Right.
top position that was like a Megan Thee Stallion. Why you can't make it cool for the young ladies that, might listen to you? Why can't they say, well, I could listen to Megan Thee Stallion and I could be serious too? Why
Mm,
does, even if serious events,
yeah.
why are you being a clown? Why are you being nothing different? Like, why are you showing up in a costume? More so what I'm saying. Show up as a political advisor from an intellectual perspective. Why are you showing up there performing? Like, we don't need to be performed. How many times do we need to see Megan Thee Stallion, perform? Like, if you was coming out there on some revolutionary Black Panther, but I mean, that's not what they doing. So it kind of null and voids even the purpose of even having celebrities and getting Quavo and saying corny lines like Quavo would say, he don't walk,
Yes.
he talk like
Walk it like I talk. Yeah.
corny
Yes.
lines like that. And then
Yes.
and not only, and then come on, that's even disrespectful to them and their music.
Yes.
Is that what your
Yes.
music was meant to be used for? To
Mm,
pander to Black folks
mm,
about doing nothing for us? Because if they really wanted to get our Black vote, all they would have to simply do is say, we have a plan for Black America to repair economically, socially,
come on.
politically. That's all they have. That's all they would have to say, and they would get the Black vote overnight. And Donald Trump wouldn't. It wouldn't even be a competition if they came out and just said, "We're going to give reparations. We're going to give a Black economic plan." Even if they said, "We're going to create a whole standard of things we're going to do. We're going to get rid of student debt. We're going to make sure that every Black person can go out and get a home loan." And it's not based off of this or based off of that. We're going to make sure Black people get a couple acres of land, or, all they would have to do is come out and say that. But then they'll spend all the money to bring a Megan Thee Stallion,
Mm,
Quavo. They'll spend money to, bring out Billy Porter. They'll spend
yep.
money to bring out all of these people that have no interest of the greater good of the Black man, Black woman, and all of that. And then they'll spend all the money, and they can spend that same money in repairing Black people. Like, you would think that you have all that money, I print the money, I do all of that. You would think they would be able to say, you know what, if we're giving billions to Ukraine, even if you're not giving it to them, you're allocating resources, funds,
That's right.
guns, that costs money, labor, the shipping of those things. Somebody's paying for those things. So even if the people aren't getting the money, somebody's getting that money that ain't Black folks.
Mm.
So
Hey, Rue.
that ain't
Come
even
on,
from
bro.
America. We ain't even talk. They out here doing all of this stuff for people that, if America wasn't, if stuff hit the fan in America, Ukraine ain't jumping out the woodwork to help us. China ain't jumping out the woodwork to help us. But
Wow.
why is it that we be jumping out the, like, we have to
Priorities messed up.
really, yeah, we have to really start understanding what we're dealing with and really combating it from an intellectual perspective, not an emotional,
Yes.
intellectual. And then once we can get it from the intellectual perspective and we can get educated, then we can go out and defend ourselves with what we need to do. But it makes absolutely no sense for anybody in this generation to think we just gonna go out and pick up guns and do stuff and this, that, or the third. You have to be educated first, because that's the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers were
Yes.
educated. They were about the education. They didn't just jump out and be like, hey, we're going to hop out with guns on the police. How do you think they knew how to know if they could even pull out a gun around the police? For them to know that they could have done that, when that famous picture when you see the Black Panthers on the steps of the U.S.
Yep.
of the Capitol, that was
Yeah.
in Seattle. That was Elmer
Wow.
and them. People
See, I
think
didn't
that
know
was
that.
in Sacramento. Yeah, see, Dave
Yeah.
Chappelle messed it up when he said that I
Yeah.
was Sacramento. That was
Yeah.
Seattle chapter.
I always thought that too. Hey, Rue, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was the Seattle
Wow.
chapter. And once they saw that, They was like, nah, we got to do something. The NRA don't care about nothing dealing with gun laws unless it's black folks.
That's
Let
right.
black folks go out right now. They'll be like, okay, we need to change some laws with the NRA. The
Mm.
NRA, but yes, but oh, let a white person do a mass shooting. Nah, we good. But let a black person just say to themselves, I don't want to be in this predicament no more. Like you're trying to escape, the same thing when they're talking about like I was watching an interview you did with RZA and you were talking about
Hmm.
the psychosis that they said black people that wanted to
It's
escape off
sick.
the plantation.
Yes.
Like this,
Yes.
oh, you have this disease. Oh, and
Yes.
what they do now, like they'll put a terrorist in the same breath as a black extremist.
Mm.
Like even a brother like RZA, they'll put him in the same category as a dude who literally caused harm and damage.
Yes.
Just because, so you're saying somebody that caused harm and damage is equivalent to a black man that make you think?
Mm.
It's just, and it goes back to the like, we don't need a weapon to have a weapon. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? The white man needs a physical weapon. The white man's gun is his genitalia. You,
Yes.
you know, that's why they go so hard for protecting it because
That's
without
right.
that gun, they don't feel like a man.
Yes.
And
Hand-to-hand combat is not their thing, bro.
no, no,
That's not what they
no.
want to do. Shoot
And
from a distance.
yeah, yeah. And that's all they do. And as you can see with the Trump thing, they ain't even that good at that.
That's right. That's
Hey,
right, man. And bro, hey, Rue, Trump, he was just down the street yesterday. So you saw all the Make America Great Again hats, all the people, man. And Kamala Harris, she was just here a few days ago as well. And again, to your point, that was actually perfect timing because Meg Thee Stallion, I was just about to ask you about that whole debacle because, man, seeing that, I'm like, yo, this is a real microcosm of how this party feels about us. That I'll just throw Meg Thee Stallion on stage, she'll start twerking. Hill Harper, he had a great interview on the Breakfast Club. And basically what he was saying was our celebrities, our entertainers, they've been compromised. If we go back to the 60s, to your point, we had so many revolutionaries. Marlon Brando, like you said, even our white brothers in arms, people like that. Or then you had Ozzie Davis, or you had Harry Belafonte, you had Jim Brown, Bill Russell, all these people. But now it's like it's crickets, man. Or if we do hear them speak, it's at some Democratic Party or at a Trump rally, and they're twerking, they're rapping. How did our entertainers get compromised, hey Ru? How do you think all of this started to happen?
I'll be honest, and just to be frank, I think a lot of way
Yeah.
compromise comes is that behind closed doors, they make these people do some things, whether
Ah,
inadvertently, willfully,
yeah.
they hold things over them. Like, I don't just think our people, we just simply don't give a damn about us as a people when we get to be
Right.
celebrities, I think maybe some of us do that and they just simply, just don't care. Some of these dudes with these white women, they just,
Hmm.
they're just showing a lack of understanding who they are and what they represent. But I
Right.
do believe a lot of these celebrities, especially these rappers, the real reason why these rappers in particular can't do nothing for us as a people is because they've been compromised. And well, just to be frank, they've been compromised in sexual terms. The
Yeah.
number one thing that they can do to a black man or black woman, it's even like with Marlon Brando. They try to say Marlon Brando was engaging in activities with
Yeah.
Richard Pryor and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But if you can't say nothing else about him, but the one thing you're gonna do that we know that it easy is to denigrate a man in particular is to come
Yeah.
at his sexuality.
Yeah.
I believe that a lot of these celebrities and a lot of these uh, 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 actors and entertainers, they've been compromised from a sexual perspective, and either they get outed, they'll lose their fan base. They get outed, they might lose their families. They get, like look what happened with Andrew Gilliam in a sense, like
Yeah. I forgot about that. You're right.
you know,
Yeah.
like like
Running
he
for governor. Yeah.
his wife divorced him. He
Wow.
basically lost. Now him and Angela Ryan, somebody else, they were recently did a podcast that pretty much
Yeah.
wasn't successful. But
Yeah.
just the concept of they always will use something of a sexual nature
Yeah.
against our celebrities, whether they get you on video behind closed doors, they get you on some drug. That's why like some of them parties, like even when people talk about Diddy. and how the fact that he had cameras in his house and he was getting the lowdown on what some of these people were doing. Like, that's why some of these celebrities, you might have seen them jump out the woodwork at one point or thought they were going to go down one path, but then they didn't. Maybe it's because there's something that they did that would have put them in a compromising light. And like I
Right.
was saying, especially when it comes to men, the number one thing that they can do to a man, if he doesn't come out and say he's a gay man,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a professed heterosexual, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's somebody that come out and be like, "Hey, we
Yeah.
got a video of you," you're gonna be like, I can't look in the realm of black
Yeah.
consciousness because if I
Mm.
do, then this
Yeah.
information gonna come out about me.
Sheesh.
You know, so I'm gonna just be very frank. It's just, like that's Holly weird. That's how it
Yeah.
that's pretty much how it goes. Unless you independent, unless you're doing it on your own and funding your own projects, you pretty much probably had to be compromised for somebody to give you the certain back end that you have. And when
Yeah.
they person that compromised you gave that back end, they ain't wanting you to go out and give that money to somebody trying to revolutionize their community.
Mm.
You know what I
Wow.
mean? They, they,
Yes.
they, they want you to go do something degenerate. So if you get in trouble, then, you're just expendable. Like, we're just expendable. No matter how great we are, talented we are, to them, we're expendable. Look at Jonathan Majors. Before Jonathan Major's situation happened, he was probably going to be a very prominent black actor, especially
Yeah.
in Marvel. You see what they're doing to give Robert Downey Jr., even though he has more drug arrests and more
Yes.
track record than Jonathan Majors does, but
Mm.
they're giving Robert Downey Jr. not only that he gets Iron Man, and then he gets to be Doctor Doom.
Yes.
And then I'm not caping for Jonathan Majors, but that's not right. We're not gonna sit here and act like a person who was a drug addict who basically revived his career by being Iron Man. Like,
Mm.
Marvel revived Robert Downey Jr.'s
It did.
career after he was involved in a lot of situations that, like Jonathan Majors was exonerated from those charges.
Mm.
You would have thought, okay, you cleared your name, you cleared your record. All right, let's bring you back on. You know, so it's like a lot of these different components. We got to start owning our own stuff, and we got to start making it that our ownership passes down to our children, not
That's
ownership
right.
passes down to another person who don't have our interests at hand. We
That's
far
right.
too much. BET could have been a legit black-owned network if Bob Johnson never sold it. You
Yep.
know, you know, so it's like we just got to understand, and that's what comes through the economic deprivation. That's what comes to the fact of why
Mm.
people say we need reparations. Because even when we own stuff like BT, that wasn't enough. Because I don't think Bob Johnson just sold that just solely because he's like, oh, screw it, let white people start
Mm.
narrating black entertainment.
Mm.
Nah, he probably, we all, even the rich black folks, to maintain their riches, they have
Yeah.
to do more, and they might have to
Yes.
sell out some more because to
Yes.
maintain that, if it's hard enough for
Mm.
maybe some white folks to maintain it, imagine being
Mm.
a black man where they even want you to have it in the first place.
That's right. Woo. Come on, bro. Hey, Rue, man, you've been cooking this episode, brother, man. You've been so gracious. I probably only got like two more questions for you, man. In 2020, it was a moment, right? Everybody felt pro-black, revolutionary. You had videos of white people kneeling down to black people and saying, I'm sorry. It was a crazy time, man, but I felt like it was a moment, man. I felt like in that moment, people were truly waking up. People were finally tired and standing up, saying something. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing something about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. And it felt like corporations, they were on their knees, they were sending out money, saying, I'm sorry, all of that. But then now, Sonya Massey 2024, everybody's back outside. Everybody's worried about the Olympics or sports or what's on Zeus Network on Sunday night. It's like everybody's distracted. Do you see like a major difference between 2024 and 2020 when it comes to police shootings, how we're feeling about it, all of that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and just for obvious reasons, because we were in the house, we were,
Exactly.
like, and that was like the main thing. They're not showing Massey, on TV. George Floyd
Hmm.
was showing every day. It was really
Yeah.
hard to get around it. And
Yeah.
obviously And obviously, there's been a lot of shift. If you look at all the anchors that were in 2020 and you turn on all of these shows,
Dang, that's an excellent
there
point.
ain't none of those
I
anchors
didn't,
from
you right, bro. I
2020.
didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all brand new anchors. Almost every, and then you have people like Don Lemon trying to expose. You got all of
Mm-hmm.
these, like Chris Cuomo. You have all of these people that were
Yeah.
on board during the pandemic, pushing that nonsense with all of that. Then now, fast forward only 3, 4 years later, now it's like a complete shift has happened, and not necessarily that they're on the wavelength of being in the realm of like uplifting thinkers. They're
Yeah.
still, doing their own thing, but just the shift that has happened is that I feel like just with politics. I feel like in 2020, with Donald Trump, the focus was Donald Trump. And I believe like in 2020, yes, you had people against Donald Trump and for Donald Trump. And then after what we saw Joe Biden do these past 4 years, people, and I knew people were gonna say that they wanted Trump back in within a couple months because I knew what
Yeah.
was gonna happen with Joe Biden. I knew
Mm,
it was gonna go downhill. I didn't know it was gonna be this bad, to be honest with you,
yeah.
but I knew it was gonna go downhill. And I feel like people got to understand when people talk about Joe Biden and talk about him or talk about Kamala Harris, that is in no way, shape, or form does that mean that people are for Trump.
Right. Yes. Thank you for saying that.
Too many misconfusions that because
Yeah.
just because some and I think they're doing that on purpose to make people feel a certain way, but it's
Right.
like just because I don't like Trump, I don't like Biden. That's what I was saying
Mm,
earlier. We need to create our
yeah.
own political party.
Mm,
I'm not for neither. I can maybe look and understand one side and from there, but they're both racist because the reason why the older generation are rocking with Kamala Harris so much is because when they see Donald Trump, they get flashbacks of the Klan in their neighborhood. So
wow.
so I understand to some degree why you have certain age demographics talking about vote for Kamala Harris, even outside of the AKA, just black women. Because when they see Donald Trump, and not just Donald Trump, the people around him, it's just straight up Klansmen. Like
Mm,
there's just no way around it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, and I don't and I don't and we not the younger generation is not aloof to that. It's
Yes.
just that we know that they don't have our best interests at hand. So why
Mm,
would we even care necessarily what
yeah.
they present because they have not changed. They've been a zebra their whole life. They have not
Mm,
changed their stripes. But the
wow.
Democrats are these chameleons that want to blend in
Mm,
when it fits them. But then when they blend in, they trying to hide like, oh, we ain't gonna do nothing for the one demographic that you were supposed to help, right? The Democrats,
wow.
if helping any group in particular was a job for any party, and if it's not the Republican job, it would be the Democrats' job to assist with ushering in what black people can have, and they're not even doing the smallest. Like you would think that black people were asking for everything in this world back, and we ain't, and that's just it.
You're not lying.
Like black folks are saying we want what is deserved to us. If somebody owe you money, you want your money. And if somebody
Yes.
that owes you money is out here giving everybody else money, you're
Mm,
gonna have a problem with that because you owe me. America's out
mm,
here giving Ukraine and Israel all this money, but you
mm,
have not got right with the folks you messed over initially.
mm,
Have not got, and I believe that the way the world, in the state of the world, not just America, the state of the world is the way it is. It's because black people have not been written their they have not been able to get back from where they were forcibly taken their resources, their land, everything. Black folks as a whole have not gotten back to where we need to be. And until then, the world will not be back. There will always be war. There will always be conflict going on
that's
until
right.
black people get what rightfully deserved to them. And that's a multitude of things, whether it's money, whether it's land, whether
Mm,
it's being able to back the land with the resources. Why they killed Gaddafi, which would have made Africa the richest continent in the world. So we got to understand it's deeper than just getting money or just getting this or getting that. We got to be able to back it because if white folks get to a point where they want to burn everything down, we need to have those protective forces. When we get our reparation, the first thing we need to do is create a police force for Black people, because they could come down and burn everything.
Right.
Especially if they ain't getting nothing, they don't got nothing to lose.
Hmm.
But we have something to lose and everything. I mean, we have everything to gain,
Yes.
and they could possibly do something and take it, even if it gets back on the right side of things, because we need to now issue a certain level of police force to be able
Hmm.
to protect our resources that we now have gotten back.
Hmm.
So it just all goes back to the fact that a lot of different things we're seeing from the year 2020 now in 24. But I do believe with the Massey situation, her the religion aspect behind it, I think that might have been the same way with George Floyd when he called out for his mother. There were a
Yeah.
lot of people from all different demographics that related to that. I believe
Hmm.
that there are certain people, even white people, who are very Christian, like when she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus,"
Hmm.
and what he did in response to that,
Wow.
even white people will be like, "Nah,
Yes.
it's
Yes,
just."
bro. Yeah, man. Hey, Rule, everything that you've just dropped throughout this conversation, it's been straight gems, bro. And on the way out, man, what does the future of our people here in America look like to you?
Oh, we're definitely gonna be taking over. As you know, being in Atlanta,
Hmm.
that's gonna be the center, the Mecca. Like when we talk
Hmm.
about the capital of New York, I mean,
Yeah.
the capital of the United States is DC. The
Yep.
capital of Black America is Atlanta.
Hmm.
That's just what it is. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's going to be the blueprint. And I feel like you'll have places like Alabama, how we went to Alabama the last time, places like
Right.
Alabama will be a subset of
Yes. Yeah.
Black America
Yep.
headquarters. And the South is going to be the epicenter. Like
Hmm.
Atlanta is gonna be the hub, but the
Right.
epicenter just overall is gonna be just all of the different places in the South: North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, New Orleans. Even when you look at like Florida, all of those different places are definitely going to be the Mecca for Black Americans in this country. It already is, and then I
Yeah.
feel like and then, as we know, like when we look at all these different places, that will then usher all of the different places across America to create those hubs for Black America, all throughout
Hmm.
the UK, Africa, Australia, all these
Yeah.
different places. So the future for Black people in America is definitely going to be that we already have historically Black places. Like here in Seattle, there's the Central District, that's the historically Black neighborhood.
Wow.
And then even other places that, like Harlem in New York,
Hmm.
even though New York is pretty Black, you got Brooklyn, you
Yeah.
got all the different, but like when you think of the epicenter of the culture of like Harlem, mainly between Harlem and Brooklyn, and
Yeah.
then you put all of those things in, like all of these things, like white people, Asian people are coming in, and trust me, they're gonna start understanding, and like these are the creators. Like all they have to do is look in the mirror and then look at us, and then look at all the other facets of how science works and humanity, and they'll understand where we fit in society and where they fit in society, and understanding where the levels of hierarchy are as it relates to
Yes.
it. Just because you got the power and the money, without us, y'all would all kill each other.
Hmm.
Like if it was just them, they'd probably end up just killing each other or not doing the greatest of things with to each other. We It's just crazy how Black people keep white people's sanity to some degree, in a sense, because if we weren't around, they would go crazy among white people. Can't be around white people,
Come on.
even they know that they have a common goal of white supremacy, and make sure that like we got to stay where we at in their
Yes.
mind. At the end of the day, they can't stand each other. See,
Hmm.
we've been programmed to not stand each other to some degree, even though we still like we could hate each other, but we still love each other. White
That's right.
people hate each other, they will kill each other.
Mm,
Like
mm,
we don't have that same ice age mentality. We don't have that same, you know, cutthroat mentality. And if we do have a cutthroat mentality, it's because of the conditions that we face because of white supremacy and Western
wow.
civilization. We just don't do it because we come out our parents' womb and all of a sudden we want to just do. No, that's what the
That's
white
right.
man wanted to
That's
do.
right.
And
That's
it's
right.
the future is us, and the youth are the future. All of the young people that we're seeing, all of the even the babies yet to be born, those are
Mm,
the people that's going to be the future. Our nieces, our nephews, our
that's right.
children, stepchildren, whatever the case may be, those is going to be the future of what we're seeing as a people. And if we
Mm,
can push forth this younger generation in the right direction. And just like we say, maybe the older generation dropped the ball.
yeah.
So let us pick up the ball and not drop
Mm,
it this time. So
come on.
that's what I'm saying. If we
Yes,
know,
sir.
if we look at the older generation and say, well, they dropped the ball at times, conditions that we're facing is because they didn't do it. They should have fought for reparations in the
Yeah.
70s. Well, then it gives us something to do in that sense because everybody has things to do. Every facet of society has a hierarchy of all the politics in the world, of all just even just the everyday fun, just living life, the family aspect to it, all of these different things. And and I feel like if we can usher in with all these distractions, because we've made it this far. So even
Yes,
though
we
we have
have.
all these distractions now, with all
Mm,
the agendas that they push in now in front of us, we still will be able to persevere because it's just the truth. Not everybody is going to be ready to do what needs to be done. Just like not everybody's going to get on that bus to make it to work on time. Some people going to be
yes,
late.
sir.
Some people might
Wow.
not ever make it to work.
Wow.
But we just all have to understand that if we really want to get on the same page, we got to start looking within and religion has its place, but we have to really come to a understanding that we have to be more in tune with our spiritualness. Like
Come on.
bring it back to the Massey incident. There was a spirit that came within her that made her say what she said. Because
Mm,
why would she randomly just say that? And
that's
then
right.
why would he, in return, do you literally a living example of what she rebuked him, and then he ultimately took her life because he felt that energy. That when black people say things from a spiritual realm, that's legit because we in tune with that. So when she said what she said, his white supremacist ideology knew she was on to something,
Mm,
you know.
wow.
So we just have to be more in tune with our spirituality. If we're more in tune with our spirituality, we will get further and instead of just always relying on a man-made religion or something that just tells you have to follow it. I see a lot of things, and I know a lot of different things could change in what people do if they might just put their religion aside for a
Come on.
moment. Just for
Yes.
a moment. I'm not saying you have to stop being your religion, but just look at it from a different perspective because your
Yes.
religion might keep you in a bubble that's not going to help you fix the problem because we know systematically we were not given Christianity for it to
Mm.
take us to the promised land.
Whew. Come on. Hey, that's a mic drop right there. Hey, Rue, man, thank you, brother. You killed this conversation. On the way out, where can everybody tap in with you? You and your pops, your upcoming projects, documentaries, trips, all that good stuff. How can everybody tap in with
But so tap in to my Instagram at the Real Neset, TheRealNeset. Tap into my father's Kaba Kamene, KABAKMENE. And we also have our Panther Prince Productions Instagram, PantherPrinceProductions. And then they can tap into our Panther Prince Production YouTube channel. Periodically we put up different clips. Sometimes we put up different documentaries that we create. Sometimes we just want to give something free to the people, not
you?
always having to be something like you have to buy something, but just always letting people know, hey, if you don't got it, we still have some information that you can get. And then if you go
Yes,
to the
sir.
website, kabakamene.com, and then we're just doing a lot of different things. If you go on the Instagram, if you go to the link in the bio, we have a second returning trip to Egypt this
Yeah.
December, December 17th to the 27th. And if people were not able to go on the last trip, I guarantee you want to go on this trip,
Yeah.
because if you want to be part of something historical and
Mm,
revolutionary, even beyond just seeing the stuff, I'm talking about you won't ever experience a trip to Kemet
mm.
until you come on our trip with me, my father, and Omega XL.
Yes.
I can almost guarantee you, and
Wow.
it's because of the age. Omega, he's younger, mid
Yep.
30s.
Yep.
Some of these other groups, I'm not saying nothing about them, but they're
Mm,
more in their older age. So
yeah.
it's not as cool. It's not as fun.
Yeah.
There's not
Mm,
as much, you know, you know, you just got to experience it. But I
yes.
guarantee you,
Mm,
you ain't getting no experience like this. Being able to go on a trip with a person like my father who's been there in 87, and
wow.
then correlating, a lot of his stories that he even spoke about, being there, being around Dr. Ben, being
Mm-hmm.
around John Henry Clark, and all the different great-minded people. It's just a revolutionary experience in and of itself. And we actually working on a documentary that I did based off of the group trip that we did.
That's
So
dope.
that'll be coming in 2025. So
Dope.
we just working, and we just putting things in place. So, and for everybody out there that are into schools and want to know, because I know a lot of people say, where's the black centered schools?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in Chicago, there's a school, Freedom Home Academy, Marcus Klein. He
Mm-hmm.
has a school out, and I believe he has one in Atlanta as well,
Oh,
is run
wow.
another brother. And he's about to open up another one in San Antonio. And me and my
Nice.
father, we're in talks of coming out to be part of the opening for that.
That's beautiful, man.
So, like I said, we got all the answers. We got
Yes,
the
sir.
education aspect. We have a brother, Marcus Klein, who's been running his school for 20 plus years, who has people that he knew when they were in middle school, who graduated, became a valedictorian. Some went to HBCU, some went to PWIs, but now they coming back. His own son graduated and with a master's. Like
Wow.
when we talk about the change, like I say, be the change. We have a living example that has that as an example. Like he saw a change that was needed in society and became that change. And then so much that he had his son and then his other younger son become those changes in our society. So as a family, we have everything. We just have to come together with the resources and put our egos to the side, because a lot of people like success when it's just them, but working with
Mm.
that person over there, they be like, I'm good. I'm not gonna name
Wow.
any names, but
Yeah,
we
yeah, of
know some of
course.
the scholars who you've never
Yeah.
seen them work with anybody.
Mm.
But I'm just
Wow.
saying. And then we got to stop that, because that ain't going to do nothing for us as a
It's
people.
not.
If one person has good information, another person has good information, but the groups are divided, how
Hmm.
we ever going to get anywhere as a people?
That's right. That's right.
White supremacy will thrive on, oh, they have their own little cliques, they have their
And that's what
own
they want.
cults. Yeah, yeah. But if you even if you can oppose views, but then still say we as a people need to come together, that's when
Yes.
you're a threat to white supremacy. You're not a threat just individually. You a
No.
threat when we could, even if
Come
we don't
together.
see eye to eye. But if we could come, that's why white supremacy does what they do, because white people don't
No.
see eye to eye, but they come
No.
together. They know they don't want white supremacy to end.
That's right. It's a common
And
goal and a common enemy.
and if we want to see ourselves thrive as a human as a civilization of us as black people, then we have to do the same. Even if we don't see eye to eye, sometimes we might have to work with each other because there's a common goal that needs to be accomplished. And
That's right.
fighting amongst each other might even eradicate us at some point if we continue
Yes.
doing it and they're able to capitalize off our demise, especially when they're bringing in all these other people that might even look like us, but they're being
Mm.
sent to stab us in the back.
Wow. Whew. Hey, Rue, man, this was another classic one, bro. As you know, you always welcome back, man. I appreciate you
Sure.
greatly, brother. Thank you, man. That was
Yes,
great.
sir. Next time we're in Atlanta, we're gonna get another sit down.
Oh, you already know.
To happen.
You already know, hey, Rue. Hey, you already know
Definitely.
I got you. Hey, it's always a done deal, brother, man. Thank you, bro. And again, you shared so much great information as usual. So, hey, we just getting started though, man. I appreciate you, brother, and you be safe.
Thank you. No doubt. Likewise, my brother. Keep doing what
Yes,
you're
sir.
doing, and
Love.
we gonna make this happen. We already in the
Yes.
process. We gotta
Come
trust
on.
the process.
That's it. That's it. And
Sir.
just keep working. That's it, man.
Sir.
Send your wife, the kids, all our love as well, man. Much love, brother. Enjoy your Sunday.